All right, what's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to be showing you the questions that you need to ask before joining Symmetry Financial Group. If we haven't met yet, my name is Tim Schooker. I've been in the life insurance industry for the last 3 years. I've talked to thousands of different agents from multiple different IMOs, and I've also been pretty close with like the Symmetry system and been to a couple of their meetings. I was actually almost recruited there, so I'm very familiar with how their whole structure works. And I really just want to break down a couple things that you should know, a couple questions that you should ask before actually jumping all the way in. Now, with that being said, before I get into any of this, I just want to be very clear. I'm not disparaging or slandering Symmetry in any way. This is really just laying out the facts, laying out the things that I've observed and of people that I've worked there, that I've talked to, and kind of just throwing that all out there so that you can do all your due diligence prior to jumping in and making the commitment with working with them. So I've broken this up into a few different things, as you guys can see on the screen here. And the first thing that I want to talk about is commission level, right? And so this is something that is very important when you get into the insurance industry, but the comp itself is not always the most important thing. And I'll explain that a little bit, right? But one of the questions you want to ask whenever you're joining Symmetry or any other IMO in general, right, is what is your starting commission level going to be, right? It could have changed, but in my experience from talking to people, I believe Symmetry starts people at 80%. Could be lower, could be higher. I don't know what they do now, but that's what I've heard from other people. And then also, how do you get your commission level raised, right? So at what would signify you to go from 80 to 85 or from 85 to 90? How do you know when it's going to be raised? What is the ladder for growth within the company? It would be very important for me, at least, to have an idea of like when my comp is going to be raised and what point I can get to, right? Now, one thing that I've noticed about Symmetry from talking to dozens of agents that work there is that they are very bonus heavy, right? So maybe they're a little bit lower than some of the like super high comp IMOs as far as like comp goes, but they'll make up for it with bonuses. So I know Symmetry offers a lot of bonuses on the back end, so that's something to consider as well. Also, what is the max commission that you are going to be able to get, right? So whenever you're picking an IMO, like Symmetry or like one of the other ones, you want to make sure that there's room for growth because you want to stay at an IMO for as long as possible. One of the biggest commonalities I've seen between agents that fail is jumping from IMO to IMO, jumping from agency to agency. And so it's really important that the first place that you go for, or doesn't have to be, but it's ideal if the first agency you join is the last agency that you are with, because you get to have that time where everything compounds and you get to grow within the company. So with that being said, find out what's the cap that you can get to as far as commission level within the company and figure out what those top earners are making so that you really have that future to look forward to, right? So that you can really see like, okay, this is what the end goal is at Symmetry or at another company, right? And then also one thing that you need to realize is that most of the time the commission level that you'll get depends from product to product because Symmetry and other IMOs are paid differently from the carriers based off of what you sell. So for example, maybe you sell whole life versus term, the commission level is usually going to be different. So maybe they'll tell you it's, let's just say 80% or 85%, but you need to figure out what is the commission level per product so that you know what you're actually getting when you sell. Because let's say you join Symmetry and you're planning on selling final expense, but term pays higher than final expense, the comp they'll tell you is probably for term, so you need to find out what it is for each product. So that's commission level. And just to kind of summarize my opinions on commission level, I think it's very important. But what's ultimately more important is how the pay is structured, right? So maybe a company has less commission, but they pay you more in bonuses. And that's okay, right? Ultimately, we want to figure out what's the comp plan. Commission level is important, but not the most important thing, because you also want to make sure that you're getting training, you have leads, you have support, all the other stuff. So I really look at it as like, what is the offer they're giving you, right? Comp is not the only thing, right? The job that pays you the most is not the only thing. It's also how everything else is structured. What is the benefits? What is this? What do you get? All of the other stuff that comes with it. So that's something to consider. The next thing we're going to talk about here is training, right? So these are some questions you need to ask. What type of training will you get from your upline, right? And who is your upline, first of all? So when I say this, when you're a new agent, right, even if you have sales experience, So let me rephrase this. So from what I've seen, there's 2 learning curves in insurance. You have the sales learning curve and you have the insurance learning curve. And the faster you can get past both of those learning curves, the faster you can see success, right? So once you overcome both of those, you're good to go. So some people will have experience with sales, so they already have this learning curve good, but they have no insurance knowledge. So they need somebody to drag them across that learning curve so they can get to the next level. So regardless, you could be like, oh, I'm the best salesperson. I can sell ice to an Eskimo, whatever. I can sell, sand to a camel. I don't even know. Let's say you're the best salesperson ever. You're still going to want some support when it comes to the insurance stuff. Like, how do I get this approved? The underwriting, the carriers, the this, the that. All of those things, you're going to want support on that as well. So those both are very, very important. And you ultimately want to figure out, like, how can I, like, what type of training am I going to have to get past the insurance learning curve? And if you're not as experienced with sales, you're also going to need the sales experience too. So training is very critical, even if you're good at sales. So what type of training are you going to get? Is it going to be video training, like you're going through a course and watching videos, which is good, but also you want to make sure that that's going to be high quality, because somebody, just like there's some poor video training out there. So make sure that you find out what video training you're going to be getting from Symmetry and from your upline. Also, one-on-one training. And this is something that differs from agency to agency within Symmetry. So it's not all the same, which is why what I'm going to talk about in a minute here is very important. But what type of training are you going to get? Are you going to be able to get one-on-one support where someone will help role play with you and practice objections and do all the different things and help you underwrite policies and this and that? What type of training are you going to get, right? And then also, this is something when I first got started, this got me so much more business, and not only being able to write the business, but having business that sticks. And that's support in the middle of an application. Like, is there someone that I can pick up my phone and call if I'm having a problem and if I need a question answered? And if not, maybe you might want to look somewhere else, especially if you're like a newer agent, because that's something that you're going to need help with a lot, right? So that's training. The next thing we're going to talk about is the lead program. And actually, before we do, I just want to tell you guys, at the end of this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the biggest issues that I have heard from people at Symmetry, so make sure to stick around for that. The lead program, right? What type of leads are you going to be working? Are they going to be mailer leads? Are they going to be Facebook leads? Are they going to be Google leads? Are they going to be aged leads, telemarketed leads, live transfers? I mean, there's so many freaking types of leads. Figure out what type of leads are you going to be working, and then also what is the cost per lead, right? They'll have, at Symmetry, they have different types of leads, different lead packages. They have a bunch of them. Figure out what is the cost for each lead type. And kind of factor that into like, okay, this is what I would work. What does your upline recommend you to buy as far as leads go? So aged or new, are they cost per lead, or what's the cost per lead? And then also one thing that I've noticed a pattern with Symmetry is usually what they'll do is they'll partner with one lead vendor, or they'll kind of be pushing one lead vendor at like their conference and different things like that. And then basically what I've seen happen, and this is a pretty common occurrence, is all the agents would jump on the lead source because it's working, and then it will kind of like implode. I've seen this happen multiple times just from an outside perspective. And I'm not saying that that's a negative thing about Symmetry. I'm just saying if you go and work there, I would keep that in the back of your mind, that if everyone is going for one lead source, pay attention, because oftentimes that ends up causing problems. All right. So let's talk about the upline, right? Who is your upline? This is honestly the most important thing, because what I've seen is like the agency itself does matter, but what's more important is who you're working for, right? You could be at Symmetry and have one person who's like the best upline ever, and this is like real situations that happen. The best upline ever, they're amazing, they answer your phone call, they'll give you all the training, this and that, blah, 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 blah. Or you could have upline 2 who just never answers the phone, tells you you're stupid, won't help you sell. They don't really have experience themselves. Like, your experience at the agency, honestly, it depends less on the agency and more on the upline. Just like, what really affects your life more is like who's your mayor and who's your sheriff and who's on city council than who's the president, right? You don't really feel that. You're not going to really feel the effects as much from like what Symmetry does as you will as how your upline treats you, right? So really figuring out who's your upline, who's recruiting you, what is their experience selling, right? Are they someone who's just building a team and they have no experience with selling? Well, how are they going to train you on how to sell? And also, how involved will they be when they're training you? Are they going to be able to answer your phone call? Are they going to help you role play and practice objections? What is that actually going to look like? And then what's their sales experience, right? This is very, very important. And then another thing I didn't even add on here is like their moral character, right? And there's instances, not just at Symmetry in particular, where I've talked to agents who are saying, you know, hey, I just really didn't like the way that my upline was morally and ethically. I didn't really feel like their ethics aligned with mine. And so make sure that whoever you're going to be aligning your income and your future with, you also feel like you are morally aligned with their standards and the way that they act. That's very, very important. Like if you're taking notes, I would write that down, circle it, highlight it, and then draw arrows to it in red ink. Next thing we're going to talk about is recruiting, right? So how is the commission structured? This is something I would look at and like really pay attention to. In MLMs, in IMOs, there's two main types. You have wide and then you have vertical. And a vertical is going to be one with a lot of uplines and downlines and different things like that. And usually what you'll see is the people at the bottom have a lower commission so that there's more room to feed everybody in between, right? Whereas a very wide organization, there's going to be few, like the comp at the bottom will be higher because there's not as many layers in between, right? And if you're wanting to recruit and team build, I would say doing something that's more vertical is probably going to be better for you because you have more room to climb and you have more spread from the people downline of you to make money. If you're going for recruiting, that's going to be an optimal commission structure. If you're going for personal production, you're going to want to get something that's either higher comp or like the best offer possible where they're maybe going to give you free leads or do something like that, right? So that's something to pay attention to. And then also, like, are you being pushed towards recruiting? If you want to recruit, great. I think Symmetry, from what I've seen, is there. I'd say you could do both, right? You could sell personally or you could recruit. But I would say definitely like really figure out what is your upline kind of pushing for. And then the next thing is a release, right? So this is something that nobody really talks about, especially to newer agents because they don't want you to be thinking about this. Is let's say things don't go well. Let's say you join Symmetry and you decide to leave. Are they going to release your contracts, right? And if you don't know what that means, essentially, whenever you join or leave an IMO, you are contracting with them. Like you're contracting with the carrier through the IMO, right? And so basically, if you decide to leave, the IMO or agency has to release you so that you can go somewhere else. So make sure and figure out if you want to leave, will they release you? And if not, that's definitely something to consider because if something goes wrong or something changes or you want to switch IMOs, you're not going to be able to do that and you'll have to wait 6 months to go start again at a different agency. So release is something to definitely ask about. And with that being said, let's touch on the biggest issues from people that I have talked to. So there's mainly two. One is, again, it really, really depends on what upline you get. So you could get you could have an upline with Symmetry and you're like, oh my God, this is the best place ever. This upline is amazing. I love Symmetry so much. I'm going to all the conferences, blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm going to get a Symmetry tattoo on my chest, whatever. Or maybe you get stuck with someone terrible, like your upline just sucks and you think Symmetry is the worst company in the world. And ultimately, it really just depends on the upline because Symmetry at the top, from my opinion, an outsider looking in, I think they run their company really well personally. I don't think it's a good fit for everyone, but not every place is a good fit for everyone. So I don't think Symmetry is a bad option, but the biggest thing is making sure that you can be choosy with who your upline is, right? That's so important. Don't just go with the person that recruits you. I would really shop your upline around and like really look at who you want to be working under and you know how that's actually going to look for you. So with that being said, these are the questions to ask before joining Symmetry Financial Group. If you want to learn more about working with my agency, I'm not affiliated with Symmetry Financial Group, but you can click the link down below. We are hiring agents right now. So click the link down below to learn more about that. And then also we put together a video. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're probably going to get into telesales or some type of insurance sales. But I put together a video right here documenting and showing a live sales call of us closing a $1,000 insurance policy. So click here right here to see some live sales calls action to help prepare you for when you actually jump in and start selling. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.